Hey, Dave with Align Therapy here. We're going to talk today about balance, improving Schroth Method results and Schroth Method exercise results. There was a recent research article that came out that looked at adding balance or proprioception into Schroth Method exercises, well, combining the two, and seeing how that affected things. And the research article showed, it was a small sample size, it was like 53 patients or something like that, and they followed them for 6 weeks. But they found that there was less rotation, so less angle of trunk rotation, ATR, in the spine. They saw that the Cobb angle improved. They saw that the SR22, which is it's a questionnaire to see how scoliosis is affecting their life, that improved. And they also found the balance improved. So I thought I'd show a few exercises that could help with proprioception or help with balance, and the more we help with balance, the better the signals and the awareness happens through the body. And I think it's really cool. We've been doing balance and proprioceptive training for, the last 8 years that we've been open. And we see that the more proprioception and balance that we can improve, the better the patient's able to hold their correction, the better they're able to control what's happening. And that's really specific to the pelvis too. One of the big things in Schroth corrections is we correct the pelvis first. And if they can control their pelvis correction by having better balance and better awareness, then it helps stabilize everything above the pelvis as well. So let's go through a couple of things. One thing first, a lot of scoliosis patients have a shift in their pelvis. So the pelvis is shifted to the side one way or the other depending on what type of curve they have. So a lot of these exercises, I'm not just having the person do the balance exercise, I'm having them try and control what their pelvis is doing, trying to keep their pelvis centered underneath their trunk. And so if you're doing these exercises, it's really helpful to do them in front of a mirror so that you can see as you stand on one leg or doing whatever else we're going to do, so you can see if your pelvis is shifted to one side or the other. And that's a key component of this. You need the feedback to know if that's being controlled or not. So the first level that I would go to with proprioceptive or balance training with scoliosis patients is doing just a single leg stance, if we can get there, especially with adolescents. And that's what the research article looked at, was adolescents. I think this is helpful for adults as well. So with adults, if standing on one leg on the floor is too much, then we can stand with the feet together. You can stand with one foot in front of the other, so that, that's still challenging your balance. But we're assuming that your balance is good enough that we can get to at least standing on one leg. So standing on one leg, when you lift that other foot up, the pelvis wants to drop like this. And if you have scoliosis, your pelvis may want to go to the left or to the right. So looking in a mirror, standing on one leg, making sure that your waistline is as symmetrical as you can get it, and that really we're looking at like your chin should be over the middle of your pelvis. And so that's the first level of balance and proprioception, is doing that, but doing that on both sides. Don't just do that on one side. We want to do that on both sides. So standing on one leg, making sure the pelvis is corrected. I don't have scoliosis, but if I was faking it, my pelvis out like this, I'm centering that pelvis so that it's underneath me a little bit more. So that's our first level, standing on the floor. Second level, we can use a balance foam pad. And when you stand on the foam pad, it's going to challenge your ability to stabilize, and your proprioception has to go up. Proprioception is that your nerves are basically talking to the brain, the joints are talking to the brain. They're talking about how to maintain your balance. And when you put something squishy underneath, it makes it more challenging for the brain to decide what to do and the body to decide what to do. So standing on the balance pad, again, correcting the pelvis, staying nice and tall, nice and elongated, and doing that, 20 to 30 seconds, correcting the pelvis, and then switching to the other side. And again, same thing, correcting the pelvis, and elongating the spine. We don't want to, be slouched or falling into the curve or anything like that. So that's the balance pad. The next level, a balance disc. These used to be called Dyna discs, and they're great. They're inexpensive. You can pick them up on Amazon really easily. They usually come with a pump as well. And just foot in the middle of the balance pad, keeping stability through the trunk, trying to, again, correct the pelvis, all those things, and building your ability to control that and stabilize. Again, doing it on both sides. Most people have one side that's better balanced than the other. Mine's my right side. That's why I default to demonstrating on my right side. But you just work on getting your balance better while you're reinforcing that pelvis correction. So that's the balance disc. So as we go a little higher in the level of balance, this is a Bosu Ball. So it's kind of like an upside down exercise ball. And same thing. We're just going to go on one leg and try and correct the pelvis. You'll notice your ankle wants to move a lot, but that's okay. Your body's just trying to figure out how to control and correct. And that's what we want. We want the body to be learning how to do that. This one's harder to correct the pelvis because you have a lot more going on, but trying to really balance the pelvis and get that going. Now you'll see my left side's a little worse. So correcting through the pelvis and elongating the spine. Once you're getting really solid and stable, then you're on your way. The cool thing about the Bosu is you can turn it over and we can do other balance standing on the black side. It actually has it's funny because it actually has a sticker on the Bosu now when you buy it that says risk of falling higher when standing on this side. It's on the black side, but the Bosu Ball was designed to balance on both sides. So be careful. The disclaimer here is don't go to this one first. Start out and work your way up and make sure that you're safe when you do this. But you can stand on the black side, again, my bad side here, and correcting the pelvis as you do it. So the Bosu Ball is a great tool, and if you work through the lower levels and you're at that level, the Bosu Ball is a fantastic tool for balance. It's one we use in the clinic a lot. The Bosu Ball can also be used with standing on it with both feet and working on pelvis corrections. Sometimes I'll actually have my patients do full Schroth exercises, so full pelvis correction with the elongation and then postural correction with breathing with their arms up or on poles. And I'll have them do it on a Bosu Ball in standing so that they can work on building that body awareness when something is unstable underneath them. So the challenge is greater with this because when they're doing these corrections, if they shift, their pelvis is going to shift. But I think that's good. I think it's good to challenge the body's ability to progress, to stabilize as we progress the balance challenge. So in the clinic, there's some other ways that we can progress things. Most people don't have access to this. But one thing that we like to do here is using something to challenge their ability to control the balance. So standing on one leg and throwing a ball at a trampoline and catching it. It's a little harder though because we don't have a mirror, so there's not that feedback of what your pelvis is doing. But I can stand behind them and I can tell them how their pelvis is doing and tell them if they're getting out of pelvis correction. So doing something like that, throwing and catching. You can do this throwing against a wall and catching a ball or throwing it to somebody else. And it's really helpful to try and build that awareness of what the pelvis is doing and what the body's doing. So if you're doing Schroth exercises, one thing that I would recommend is trying to incorporate Schroth exercises somewhat. You can't do a full Schroth correction while you're doing some of these balance exercises, but trying to incorporate those a little bit more so that you get the benefits of the balance and the proprioception training, but you're also reinforcing the Schroth corrections. Doing balance training on its own, I think it has merit, and I think it's beneficial, but I think combining the two, if we can integrate that into the Schroth exercises, then we get more bang for our buck. And hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully that explains a little bit about, if you've read that study about balance and proprioception being added to Schroth exercises. Hopefully that helps to explain a little bit more about what's going on. As more research comes out, I'll review other research articles. We'll talk about how to incorporate those into exercises or what those show. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can be updated when that happens. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.